just how good is the 2025 running back class? Here are our thoughts about it now.
Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. We're your hosts, Calvin Timms and Dale Terry. And I'm excited, man. We're going to be talking about the running back class for 2025. Sorry for the delay in the video, guys. You know, I'm excited, but we're going to have a good time. And, you know, with all of the broken toe and everything else, it's been a hectic couple of days. But we're back. We're going to be doing this one, and maybe we'll be doing a live mock draft on Friday. That'll be a fun time. So you guys can join us live on Friday. But right now we're going to be talking about the 2025 running backs. Everyone has been talking up these guys for the last couple of years. You know, it's the next big class since 2020 was the last one with JT
probably around that.
Yeah, I mean, last year wasn't bad with Bijan and Gibbs, but it was a little thin after that. But
it was. But I mean, it had Dobbins, it had Swift.
Oh yeah, 2020. Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. What could have been J.K. Dobbins? What could have been? DeAndre Swift, who still has value. He's still relevant. You know, he's still kicking around.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good class, but this one is hyped, and I'm excited to talk about 8 prospects here today, and we're just going to go from 1 to 8 here. But we're using NFL Draft Buzz to kind of rank these guys a little bit. Now, not all of these guys have we watched. Dale's probably watched more of them, seen more of them than I have because he's the big college guy. I kind of only watch the prospects of this draft, and I watch those guys specifically. I don't really watch for the other guys on tape. You know, sometimes people flash on the field, but generally I'm just trying to watch for that specific player. But man, everyone is hyped about this class, so I'm pretty excited to be getting some of these names out there.
Yeah, no, I am too. You know, we're gonna talk about a couple Ohio State guys, a couple Big Ten guys too, and
The rich
like some
get
guys
richer.
that hey, I love to see it. It brings me a lot of joy. And I mean, I like talking about running backs because really, honestly, it's a lot of the foundational parts of fantasy football. The running back, you know, how valuable / invaluable it's been, you know, the past couple of years. Have these home run backs. So, you know, I mean, I don't want to predict anything is going to happen necessarily with this running back class, but I feel one of these guys is at least one is going to have some staying power.
Oh, for sure, if not 2 or 3. And, you know, given the way that the drafts have been going, especially if you're in Superflex, everybody wants these wide receivers and these premium tight ends, you know, the Brock Bowers early in all these drafts. Like I'm in a 1 quarterback, and the first running back didn't go until 7, even in a 1 quarterback league. So people really love the receivers, and you know, every year is another round of amazing first round wide receivers and even second or day 2 picks that are wide receivers. They still push all those running backs down. And it's just such a value. You can, you know, everybody wants a running back for Dynasty. Not every class has those guys, but this one has some depth to it with some elite studs in there as well. And if the trend continues where everybody continues to push those guys down, late first might be an amazing pick still in 2025 just because of the value you might get on some of these running backs, especially if you are a running back needy team, which it feels like most people in Dynasty are at this point in time. So before we get into these guys, and like I said, we'll start off with the number 1 guy here, which I think is most people's. He's pretty universally, from what I've seen, digging around their number 1. Before we do that, though, please subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Dynasty After Dark YouTube channel. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, Google, anywhere like that, if you want the podcast only version, you can listen to it. Subscribe to the channel on any of those platforms as well. Video, though, we are doing that. We're promoting that more lately. So YouTube channel, Dynasty After Dark, for this and all of our content. If you can, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear from you guys. Every now and then, people give us some good trolling. Some people give us some good hate. Some people give us some good praise. Like we get all of it, and we love to see it from you guys. So hopefully this video is popular. And if you're new to this channel, thank you guys for checking us out and giving us a chance. Hopefully hopefully you like this content and you like our personalities a little bit. We'll try and have some fun with this here today. It's pulling me away, and this is a side tangent before we get into everything. On Steam, if you're a gamer like I am, Steam just released the full Kingdom Hearts collection just yesterday, and my heart wants to be there, but I'm doing this for you guys here today. So make sure you guys like this video for me, because I don't want to be here. I want to be playing freaking Kingdom Hearts right now, man. I don't care how nerdy that makes me. I started playing that game. It took me back to like 2004 or whatever that game. I was a young kid again, and it felt so great, man. It felt so great.
Hey, and as we're talking about video games, like NCAA 25 is coming out here in a few weeks.
Who cares?
Hey, Calvin, you be quiet. We have not had an NCAA game in over a decade. That's what brings me back to my childhood.
There you go.
Is playing NCAA, playing with some of these guys that are nameless, on the game. It's before NIL.
Yeah.
So,
right.
it is wild and crazy. And, at the very least now on that game, like we don't have to change everyone's name, and it don't have to be some random that we just auto-generated. So
That's true.
It's fantastic. And, I'm really excited for that to come out. I think it comes out July 16th as well.
There you go. I've heard, I'm not a big Madden or anything like that kind of guy, but I've heard that the recruiting process in it is very realistic and very fun if you like that aspect of college.
It has a transfer portal, and to segue into transfer portal, the number one guy that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, there you go.
Use the transfer portal this January.
Yep, Quinshon Judkins. Who was he with? He was with Ole Miss before, right?
Ole Miss, yep.
Yep. Okay, and then he transfers over to the Ohio State. I'll give you some recognition there, Ohio State.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have him ranked as the number one guy, 5'10", 5'11", somewhere in that range, around 210 to 215 pounds. Kind of a little bit of a smaller prototypical back, but he's a thick boy and he's very explosive. Projected right now by NFL Draft Buzz to run about a 4.5 in that range, which is perfectly fine. And I do have his stats pulled up here as well. Through 2 years at Ole Miss, he has a decent, he's averaging about 5 yards per carry, which is very good. He has a lot of attempts. He has about 550 attempts through 2 years, which is just crazy nowadays, given how most teams are kind of transitioning away from the running back being the pillar, even in college. But, very good season as a rookie, a little bit less so this last year, but I think a lot of that had to do with offensive line issues, if I am correct in my reading into it. But the amazing thing, 31 touchdowns through 2 years, and then he goes to Ohio State, which obviously has much better offensive line play, questionable quarterback play, but, that's neither here nor there. But an amazing rushing threat on the ground. Not much usage in the passing game, 37 receptions through 2 years. Not terrible given how few teams throw to the running back in college. 281 yards, but 3 touchdowns through the air as well. So this dude is just a scoring threat, a scoring monster. And I'll let you kind of talk about your excitement here for him going to Ohio State.
I will say for Judkins that I felt he really thrived with Jackson Dart, which that's someone that we're going to talk about here in one of the upcoming episodes. It's the quarterback at Ole Miss, with him being more of a rushing style quarterback, like Judkins was a touchdown machine.
Right.
And I really foresee him doing a lot of that, it's a very, lightning, I guess you could say, with him, and it's with him and Henderson.
Yep.
I think the only thing that I worry about is his heavy workload, which he's done a lot in college. Fun fact, he is the first running back since Herschel Walker to have back-to-back 1,000-yard season in his first couple years
Yep.
in the SEC, and and to also have 15 or more rushing touchdowns in this. So,
Crazy. Very good player.
unlike a player that we saw a couple years ago in Zach Evans, who could not score to save his life,
Right. Right.
Judkins finds the end and he
Yep.
gets the job done. He's probably going to run for a similar clip. Actually, I feel it's going to be even better
Oh
because
yeah. I think it's gonna be much
defenses
better.
really we're able to game plan for him, but now they're going to have to game plan for him and Henderson,
Yep.
which I think they do somewhat similar things.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
I haven't watched a lot of the passing tape for Judkins, but rushing wise, like he's a machine. I feel
Hmm.
great about it. I think the only thing I worry about is his long run speed.
Yeah.
It's a fastest 40 time, but that doesn't necessarily matter. In
Right.
the NFL, I feel he has a really good frame. He's very solid. He's very um quick and steady on his feet. And another weakness, unfortunately, that he has is that he hasn't done a lot of pass protection,
Sure.
which I'm not sure how much he's going to do at Ohio State.
Yeah. Yep.
I've been seeing a lot of things that that Ohio State's going to pass the ball a lot. Like they have a lot of fantastic wide receivers with Buka. They have
Sure.
all these guys that we keep generating every year. Um, it
Right.
feels like, but I feel it's going to be a run first offense with Will
Yes.
Howard.
Yep.
It's going to kind of set off a lot of that. It's going to set off action pass. They're going to run. They're going to be doing a lot of different things, and I think Judkins is um going to receive at least half of those carries at the very.
Right. Now, we'll use this to just transition to Travion Henderson as well, and we'll kind of talk about both of these guys together. Travion is on NFL Draft Buzz. They're running back number 5. I've seen some people have him still top 3. It all kind of depends how you feel about Travion Henderson as it is, just as a prospect. I know he wasn't everyone's cup of tea
Yep.
last year. The
Yep.
injuries kind of scare people a little bit as well. Just kind of going back into my memory banks on Travion Henderson, because we did a whole breakdown for him last year, and then he recommits to Ohio State, right? So he's struggled a little bit with injuries so far through his career, but it's just funny. Through 3 years, and I get it, it's not a full workload, same number of games and all that stuff, but 446 attempts where Judkins has 550. So, Judkins through 2
Yeah.
years has more rushing attempts than Travion does through 3. Similar yardage, so that's kind of funny there. 32 rushing touchdowns for Travion through 3 years versus 31 for Quinshon. And this is where I think that Henderson is going to be utilized a lot more, is in the receiving game. 50 receptions through 3 years, and this is including 2022 where he had 4 total, so on 6 targets. So it's not really a ton of usage there, but his rookie year, this last year, much more involved with the passing game. And you take out those 4 catches, so 46 for 550 yards is pretty good for a college running back. And I do think Travion has very good hands. And I think that's where it's going to be a little bit more of a thunder and lightning type of style between these two in Ohio State. I think Quinshon is going to be more of the power guy. And I just one thing I want to point out now, and I think this is going to be a major talking point. If I had to look in, if I'm putting my future goggles on and predicting what people are going to be talking about with Quinshon Judkins next year, his stats are going to be nerfed this year. If he's only around 900 rushing yards, I would not be shocked, because it's going to be him and Travion splitting that workload a lot more. I think Travion is going to be more of the pass catching guy as it is. He's better at the pass protection as it is anyway than Judkins, like you already mentioned. But I do think that Quinshon is going to have a little bit of lesser stats just because of the dynamic between these two. And I think Travion will as well. They're going to complement each other, but they're also going to eat into each other's workload. And I think people are going to knock him for that in a year's time. And I just want to say, you have to look at this offense, how good it is between both of these guys, and just remember how good this guy is in a year's time. And people are going to say, oh, no, you're crazy. That'll never happen. Dude, we have people, they have like the memories of goldfish, I swear, because it's like, oh, no, we'll remember how good he was in 2022 and 2023. And in a year's time, I've seen this so many times where people just argue, well, this last year he was down a little bit, so we can't give him all the credit. It's like, guys, we knew this was going to happen. We knew this was going to happen. Yeah. So, no, I do think Quinshon is probably going to be, when it all pans out, my number one running back in this class. I do want to see a little bit more usage. Let's see if he can eke out a little bit more role in the receiving game from Travion this year. But I love both of these guys. And honestly, I don't know a ton about the other guys. And this is something that I'm going to get more involved with it throughout this season. I'm going to be watching these guys. These are more names to know. But I would not be shocked if these guys are my number 1 and number 2 or number 1 and number 3. Like, I love both of these players. So it's going to be fun to see how it ultimately turns out here in 2025.
Yeah. I'll start off by saying I love me some Henderson.
There you go.
Love him, LOVE. He was the number 1 running back coming out of his coming out of high school. He goes to Ohio State. He's electric. He's fantastic. And then he gets injured. And he was playing with Mayan Williams quite a bit, who was, I think he was undrafted last year,
right,
in the draft. He came out. He also played with like Dallas Hayden, who transferred. I can't remember where. But he also transferred out. I think Colorado, maybe. But anyways, but Henderson was more of the lightning back compared to Mayan Williams, who is a thick boy, like you like to say. In that, he wasn't getting a lot of those touchdowns because he really wasn't playing necessarily in the red zone a lot because he is injury prone. That's his biggest knock, is that when he is healthy and on the field, he is the best back.
Yep.
I know I'm biased. I understand that, but just watching him.
Yeah, he's very good.
How he runs.
He's so good.
How he runs. It's so smooth. It's smooth.
Yep.
So smooth, so fast, so quick. He can turn on a dime. Like he's just a really good football player. He's very smart. Like he tries not to get injured. He does. His body is just injury prone, unfortunately, at this point. I think he had a foot injury.
We'll see. All it takes is one season. Look at Nick Chubb, dude. I mean, Nick Chubb in college, right? And this is going back a few years, but his rookie year, he completely torches that for Georgia at the time. Then he has a devastating ACL tear, comes back the next year, stays to be a senior, and has a resurgence his senior year, but he never got back to what he was as a rookie, and then goes to the NFL, and it's like, oh, the dude's never injury prone until, obviously this last year with a crazy hit. It was just more the hit than anything, but it's like, one devastating injury does not end a guy's career. So all it takes is one season.
Yes, it does. And I think he's going to have a very similar season to what he had last year. It's going to be, I don't think he's going to get a crap ton of attempts.
Yeah.
He's going to have a really good yards per carry clip. Right. He's probably going to be, I think both of them are going to be around 6 or 7 yards.
Oh yeah. What's nice is, what's funny to me, I wish Travion Henderson would have come out in this class just to see the conversations between him and Jonathan Brooks, because the way that people talk about Jonathan Brooks is how I see Travion Henderson on the field. Like when they talk about him, I see Henderson, right? But like I don't see what everyone describes with Brooks on the field. Like they flower it up and everything. Like, oh, he's so smooth. Have you watched Henderson? Like he's so good, man. So I'm with you. I don't even like Ohio State. I'm giving Dale a bunch of crap. So this is not bias whatsoever. I just like the player a ton. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Obviously, that backfield is going to be one to watch. If they do have reduced stats, that doesn't necessarily mean that either player is as bad. It just might be that they're eating into each other's roles. So let's transition here to NFL Draft Buzz's number 2 guy, which is going to be Ollie Gordon. Now, there was rumors that he was going to be entering the transfer portal, but he ultimately never did. He plays for Oklahoma State in the Big 12, and through 2 years, as a freshman, only 62 attempts in 13 games for 308 yards. Not amazing, but this last year absolutely goes nuclear. 14 games played for 285 attempts and 1,700 yards, 21 touchdowns this last year, which is nuts. 39 receptions this last year, which is also nuts, for 330 yards, 8.5 a clip, 6 on the rushing side, which is great. 1 receiving touchdown. So this last year he went absolutely nuclear. 398 total touches for 2,400 yards and 26 touchdowns. Elite season from Ollie Gordon. So he's going to be somebody that I'm going to have to be watching this year with Oklahoma State.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't really watch I'm an OSU fan. I didn't watch the other OSU or the other one.
There you go.
But I am a college football degenerate for the most part. So, I've obviously heard of Ollie Gordon.
Right.
Seen what he's done. I know that with the Oklahoma State Cowboys, they play in the Big 12. And Big 12 defense are known for what, Calvin?
Big 12 what?
Big 12 defenses are known for what?
Being bad? I don't
Being
know.
Bad. Being bad.
That's about all I know.
Historically bad. So,
Right.
so unfortunately, I haven't watched a ton of tape on him, but he's playing against high school defenses essentially. And I feel with Mike Gundy, which is the coach of Oklahoma State, he's definitely going to feature this guy. Like he knows how to feed his stars.
Sure.
So I think my worry is that once he gets to NFL, he's not going to have experience playing tougher competition. It's going against stack boxes. He's not as good, but that also goes into how good is their offensive line and stuff like that. So
Right.
I don't necessarily think he's good in short yardage, stuff like that. Like he more relies on these big explosive, plays that that we see on what was formerly known as Sports Center, and all this and that. So, I think he's going to be one to watch to see what he does.
Yep.
Like he doesn't have the greatest start to the year because he just got caught with a DUI a couple days ago. And there's some potential rumblings about him going to Georgia. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they were just making jokes that Georgia players sometimes tend to get DUIs, unfortunately.
Sure.
But I think Ollie Gordon does have a good football IQ, stuff like that. But I think it's gonna be interesting to see what he does, and if he has, he's not gonna have a Barry Sanders-esque stat line for the year, but
Sure.
I think he's gonna throw up some big numbers again.
Yeah.
But I think I'm always weary of Big 12 offensive stars. I've always been, I've always been
Yet
really
you
timid
love
about
Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers went to Boston College.
I know.
He went to Boston College in the ACC.
Exactly, which is worse. No,
you're not wrong. But in the Big 12, like they don't play defense; they play a lot of offense. It's a lot of run and shoot.
Sure.
They're going nuts.
Yeah, it's made for stats, which is fine.
It is.
I do think though. There's a limit though to the number of stats until it's like, oh, it's more talent than just who you're playing and everything. Especially running back. Like I get it. Bad defenses are easy to like throw on and everything. Like receivers, I'm a little bit more leery when they have absolutely insane stats versus running backs, because it is harder to bust off amazing runs consistently as a running back, right? Because if that's their best player, they're going to load the box. And, even 11 future janitors, right? They could stop one running back in the box. So I do think that it's a little bit more impressive for a running back. So it's just going to be somebody to watch. If he can repeat that, again, prototypical size. He's the same size as Quinshon Judkins, maybe a little bit taller, but, same weight, basically the same height, projected 40 time, about the same. So again, if he can be a potential high-end second-round pick in the actual NFL draft next year, that's where I think there's going to be a lot of potential value, especially in fantasy football. So just a name to watch, and if he can continue that, I think the most impressive thing with him for me, and something that I'm going to be watching for this upcoming year, is just the pass catching, right? 39 receptions as a running back is amazing. I don't care if it's Big 12 or anywhere. Like, it just means that he does have good hands, and 330 yards, which is fine for receiving average there. But like they trusted him in that position, which is huge for college running backs, right? Half the time it feels like these offenses don't throw to the running back because they just don't trust them to do it. So if you can have good hands, like I just think that he's an explosive player waiting to happen. So just a name to keep in mind as we move forward here. So transitioning over to the next guy, which is going to be Omarion Hampton with North Carolina. Another guy, and this is one of the best things about this draft class. Dude, all of these guys we're going to talk about are 210 plus and, 6 foot or greater generally. A couple of these guys are a little bit shorter, thicker, like Travion is 5'10", but who really cares? That he's got perfectly fine weight, a little bit smaller, who really cares there? So it's prototypical size. You don't really have to worry about these Devin Achans or, some of these other guys that are just a little bit smaller, and they have the production to go with it, the talent to go with it, and it's really nice to see. And Omarion Hampton is another guy who has amazing stats, much better year this last year as a sophomore, again, kind of as a rookie. Didn't do a ton, but didn't get a lot of usage there as a rookie, 88 attempts there. But last year he had 250 rushing attempts for 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns, 29 receptions for 222 yards. So again, more of just an overall, well-rounded player. It is the ACC at North Carolina. So with Drake May, they don't really have all the receiving options that they used to have in North Carolina. And last year was kind of a nightmare situation for North Carolina based on everything.
It was a very down year for them.
Oh,
It was a very down year for them.
Yeah.
With Mac Brown being there, like they were expected to really contend in the ACC this year. Having Drake May, having Devontae Walker.
There you
go. Yes, yeah, who was drafted by the Ravens. But I think I'm pretty excited about Hampton. I kind of feel the same way about him and Ollie Gordon, that they're very good running backs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with Hampton, his issue is that he has bricks for hands.
29 receptions, not bad.
He has brick hands.
I don't know the target numbers there, but 29 receptions is bad.
And numbers don't lie. I'll agree with you on that.
Sure.
But just because you have receptions doesn't mean they're not fluid receptions.
Sure.
How I feel like a Travion Henderson.
Yeah.
Or
that's fair.
Other people we're going to talk about. Because that is important, how that tape looks. If he's coming into the flat and he's juggling a ball and then gets obliterated by a linebacker.
Yeah.
Like that's a little different than him running a wheel route and it going forever. So I do like Hampton. I think he's a very good runner. I think he's a better overall runner than Ollie Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
I feel he's a very capable pass blocker, which that's going to bode well in the NFL. He has a very prototypical size.
Yep.
He's very good at running downhill, short yardage. That's really his game. So,
he reminds me a little bit of Jordan Howard, if you remember him. Jordan Howard could catch passes. They weren't pretty, but but he could do it. So, but he was kind of more of the prototypical size, very good runner, a little bit, he was a good pass blocker just because of the size and everything, but a little bit, not the smoothest hands there, but, that's who he kind of reminds me of. But Jordan Howard, man, he was good for a couple years there. And I just don't think he ever, I never understood the fall off of Jordan Howard, man. Like that just never made sense to me.
It was really, his career arc was
very, very good to literally gone.
To very mid to
like
off the face of the earth.
Yeah, it was crazy. But Omarion Hampton, very good player. A little bit of a rough situation again last year with Drake May. I don't know who the quarterback for North Carolina is now. Do you know who it is?
I will look it up.
While you're doing that, I'll kind of wrap it up here. But
it is Max Johnson. He's gonna be the next quarterback at Chapel Hill. It's gonna be interesting to see how he replaces Drake May. Sure, even what
is he young? Is he a rookie?
He was a transfer.
Okay.
He's an incoming transfer. It looks from.
Oh, he's older too. Jeez. LSU or Texas A&M? Which one?
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's a projected starter. So it's gonna be interesting to see how.
Not gonna be great. So North Carolina, they were relevant for a couple years there, but they might be on the downside of their career arc here. So, but Omarion Hampton, good player. They're gonna have him. They're gonna lean on him a lot. So we'll see what he can do there in North Carolina. Maybe he can make him relevant yet again, but it's gonna be hard for them because their offensive line was pretty bad last year. And again, that's what makes it the most impressive to me is averaging about 6 yards per carry with a bad offensive line does show you have a lot of talent. So I do like him quite a bit. A name to keep in mind for you guys out there. Now, the one thing that's crazy to me is looking through these names, and I'm not saying that NFL Draft Buzz is the Bible, the holy grail of rankings, especially early with these guys. But like, I don't understand how Travion Henderson is number 5 on their list. And even Trevor Etienne, I like quite a bit more than
it's based on personal preference. It's based on
guess.
See on tape. Just because they go to a small school, Calvin, like the next guy we're going to talk about.
Yeah. It's crazy to me because he doesn't have the stats while also going to a small state. So Ashton Genty is their number 4 guy here. And I'm not the biggest fan. I actually watched some of this guy's clips just because I was curious, to see what was going on with him. And I'm a small school hater, I guess, because like you look at his stats through 2 years and they're okay. They're not amazing, but for him to be number 4, I don't get it. Now, he did have an amazing number of catches this last year, and I do think he has fairly good hands. And that's kind of universal with all these top 5 guys we've talked about. But through 2 years at Boise State, so Midwest Conference, I think is that what it is?
Mountain West.
Mountain West. All right. I was close. I don't know all my 85 college conferences that there are, so it's
there's only 10. There's only 10.
10 there's only 10, really? It feels like there's a lot more than 10.
There's Power 4 now since Pac-12's no more. So there's.
Feels like there's more than 10. I feel like you're tricking me here. But 376 attempts through 2 years at Boise State for 2,100 yards, 21 touchdowns. So solid numbers. Like everything here is fine. This last year, he had 43 receptions for 569 yards, which is very good. 5 touchdowns for a total through 2 years of 57 catches for 724 yards, which is amazing for a running back, especially again, prototypical size. He is, roughly 5'10", 210 pounds. So decent size, no real concerns there. He's kind of like a DeAndre Swift-ish type of guy to me in terms of his size and speed and everything. But again, you look at this list though, and it's just like Travion Henderson has the stats against better competition, and Ashton Genty.
I think part of it is that Henderson's been injury prone.
I get it, but man,
his entire career, Calvin. I've watched the man. I've watched Henderson play,
Okay, okay,
and
okay.
he's off the field a lot.
I know.
Just
But
being on,
even
just being honest.
the next guy,
I really like Henderson. I like Henderson more,
right,
but
right,
I still feel for you know I don't care about necessarily stats in
yep.
college. That's irrelevant to some extent. Now, with him being named, it's a the offensive player of the year, having being being an All American, I feel that's something to be that's noteworthy.
That just speaks to his character more than
it's
anything.
last year. It's last year he had he's averaging 160 yards from scrimmage.
Yeah,
I get it. I understand that we've talked about, the quality of opponents, stuff like that. And that does play a part, but, play the teams on your schedule, right?
I get it. I get it.
Good, bad, right or wrong. I'm not saying he is somebody that we necessarily need to hold highly, but it's a name that we definitely need to watch because I feel he does have he is I want to say he's a dual threat, but like he does have good hands.
Yeah, very good hands.
He is a quality runner. So, but he's at times he necessarily hasn't played the strongest of defenses. So I think that's something just to watch out for is his how like he is a physical runner too.
Hmm.
So I'm interested to see how that would mode in the NFL, which the defenders are bigger, stronger, faster than most people too. So,
Right.
it's going to be interesting to see how he transitions to the NFL because he is a little bit smaller, like height wise, weight wise, he's pretty well within a good, kind of what we want. So like he has those prototypical, like on this site, like they're comparing him to Ken Walker, Travis Etienne, good old Dwayne McBride,
Mm,
which some of us remember a couple years ago when he was at the Vikings. So, I think he can be kind of that, kind of a guy that, I mean, he's like they have him projected as the mid second. So
right.
I don't necessarily know about that, but I think it depends on how he's going to play this year in a in a renewed Mountain West because the Mountain West got a lot of different characters from I mean there's a lot of realignment in college football. So,
Sure.
so like they've added some different teams. I'm trying, but like they're playing, um, you know, decent schools. So it's not
Sure.
like A+
It,
schools like an SEC or Big Ten, but
I know.
like it's still solid school.
Yeah, I know. And again, I'm not disparaging him, the player. I just
Yeah,
for me, it's just crazy because like you look at someone like Ollie Gordon, right, who had amazing stats while being in a weaker conference, and this guy's got okay stats while in a weaker conference. It's like I don't know. It just feels like a little bit of the character piece is kind of bleeding into his ranking of his rating. I'm not the biggest fan right now, but we'll see. Maybe he can come out here and prove me wrong here in 2025 or 2024, I guess, for the 2025 draft. But he's an interesting name to watch for sure. Just keep him on
yeah.
your radar going into this upcoming season.
Yep.
All right, we're going to talk about the next guy who I personally like a little bit more than Ashton that we just talked about, Ashton Genty, but Trevor Etienne, and the name might sound familiar because I believe he's the younger brother of Travis
That he
Etienne.
be that he be yes.
So he was with, now you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but he was
Florida,
with Florida Gators for the first 2 years,
Florida. Yep.
transferred in the transfer portal to Georgia this year, this offseason. Going to be interesting there because I know a little bit about college football. I don't know nearly as much as Dale, but Florida, their offense has been weird to say the least. And I don't think he had
Yeah,
the
and
the best
they
opportunity.
no they didn't. So I think it's Billy Napier. I think is the head coach down there, and they've had a lot of Florida's been a little turmoil. I find it very intriguing that he went to Georgia because the Florida Georgia game is played in Jacksonville every year, and
Yeah.
it's coined as the largest cocktail party. So it's
Okay.
it's bananas down there. Those fans are nuts. Um, and you know, like something else that's nuts is Trevor, Trevor Etienne.
Yeah.
Um,
So when you're looking with him, and really quickly, I want to kind of lay the groundwork for Trevor Etienne. When you're looking at him, he doesn't have the best stats, right? Through 2 years, 250 total rushing attempts for 1,500 yards, basically, 14 touchdowns, 30 receptions for 240 yards, and one receiving touchdown. So not an amazing stat line, but when you look at it, he's not even the number one running back on his team right now. They were, I forget on Florida anyway, not his new team. I think he'll be the number one. But Montrell Johnson was the guy that they gave the bulk of the carries to both the last couple of years. You pair that with in 2022, he also had Anthony Richardson eating a ton of the carries there. It's just they love to run through their quarterback quite a bit. And I don't know if it's necessarily the best thing, but they use a lot of the rushing attempts to Montrell Johnson, then Trevor Etienne, and I'm going to say Travis at least once in this in this recap.
at least one.
But I do think that he's a very good player, very efficient stats when you look at them. He's averaging about 6 yards per carry for Florida, which is good against SEC defenses. Again, the stats aren't there, but the production is, the production levels. He's averaging about 8 yards per catch as well. Very good touchdown rates. It's about a 5% rate, give or take, 6% rate, doing the quick math there. So very good numbers there. I like the player a lot, and I'm excited to see what he can do in Georgia. Goes over to a team that is definitely a need at running back. Georgia has not been an offensive threat in a couple of years, it feels like, but he's someone that has got the name recognition, and I think he could get drafted a little bit higher just because of the name pedigree with his brother in the league. And, that's a pretty good role model to have if you are an up-and-coming running back, right? If his hands aren't the best, he can learn from Travis on how to do it a little bit better. So, going to be something interesting to watch. And the funny thing is, I was thinking about this, was if Tank Bigsby does not pan out this year, who's in need for another running back would be Jacksonville. And if you could get the brother, I think it would be something that they would probably look at. So potentially some value there as well with some NFL, some NFL pedigree. So just something to watch with Trevor Etienne. Do you have any other thoughts on him?
Not really. I haven't watched a lot of tape. Like I know he exists. I know he's going to do well in Georgia. Um,
He does
I know
exist.
it. He does exist. He definitely does exist.
That is a
He
fair statement.
he is just not Travis Etienne as a clone.
Right.
He's Trevor. I know that, but unfortunately, I haven't done my Florida tape
Yeah.
yet.
Right.
So
Yeah, he's going to be fun to watch, especially with him on Georgia. I think a lot more people watch Georgia than Florida. I could be wrong on
I think
that,
he's
but
gonna be he's gonna be more consistent.
oh, for sure, for
Is
sure.
the big thing, and with the head coach at Florida, he's on the hot seat.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
he probably would have played ETN, but I think he's gonna get more quality work at.
Right. Right. Yeah, definitely something that'll be good for his career. Now, again, he is someone that is prototypical size, 217 pounds, 5'10". So, small, thick dude. We'll see what he can do. Good hands from everything that I'm seeing. Again, very productive and very efficient back. So maybe with an uptick in workload with Georgia, we'll see a little bit more of an explosion of stats there this upcoming year. But name sounds familiar, Trevor Etienne. Keep it in mind. The next guy is another familiar name, Donovan Edwards. The dude's been around forever in Michigan. Again, mediocre stats so far. I know he's someone that's been banged up a lot, right? You look at the game log and it has a lot of games played, but I don't think he was fully healthy in a lot of those games. Then you pair with that, he was playing with Blake Corum for pretty much the entire time, and Blake Corum was the muscle hamster of college, right? He was very good from that perspective, and he was a good running back as well, especially for the college game. But 294 attempts for 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns. Where he really excelled, though, was the receiving game, 68 receptions through 3 years for 714 yards and 3 touchdowns. What that kind of tells me on the stats, and you've watched a lot more Michigan than I have, but very explosive player, but not like he's not a speed threat, right? Because if you were given those reception numbers, you'd have a lot more receiving touchdowns. So it kind of tells me that he doesn't have the long speed. That is a game changer for the running back position, but he's a very productive and reliable player. Is that kind of a fair read on Donovan Edwards?
I would say when he's on the field, yes.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. It was unfortunate that he was behind Blake Corum, but Edwards was often injured. He played well in the game. Whether his team knew the plays or not, that's neither here nor there. But he
I forgot
played
about
really
that.
well.
I honestly forgot about that.
I will never forget that, Calvin. It's in the back of my brain forever. Anyways, I digress. But he is a good player. I like him a lot more than I think he's more of the prototypical running back.
He's bigger
I
for
think
sure.
I think the big thing is his durability.
Yeah.
That's going to be his undoing, is if he's not durable. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this Michigan team does this year with I will never say his name. With their head coach not being there and JJ McCarthy not being there anymore.
Yeah, they have a lot of turnover in Michigan this year, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
I think it's gonna be okay for them, but it's gonna be a little rough in some games.
For sure.
But I think Edwards is gonna be fine. I think he's gonna do well. Like, they always have a very good offensive line. They don't necessarily throw the ball a lot, but that's
the question is whether that was more Harbaugh or was that Michigan.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I think it's a very Harbaugh-esque thing.
Right.
Throw the ball as much, and and throw it short. Have very high percentage play.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm with you there. So just a name to keep in mind here, and it's going to be fun to see what he can do without Blake Corum, because I actually do watch college football. I don't remember as much because Huh? I watch it. Yeah, I watch it at the end of the college, like when it's almost playoff time or playoffs. Like, I'll watch it then. I don't like to watch like week 3 where it's Ohio State versus Bowling Green, and it's a waste of time.
I'm a degenerate college football fan.
Right.
I will watch it, and then it's halftime. I'm done. I can chill out for the rest of the day.
Oh yeah, I like to watch. It's a
fantastic Saturday, man.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic Saturday at that. In early September, where you can just kind of chill out. You can watch a blowout, and it's all good.
Yeah, but I do like to watch it when it's the big games at the end of the year. Oh, this one, if they lose this, they might not go to the playoffs and all that stuff. That's where it's fun, right? Where there's actually some stakes in it and everything. And that's where I did watch a little bit of Michigan last year, and I got to see a little bit of Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, and I'm interested to see what he can do this year without Blake Corum in front of him. Can he have those stats?
It's gonna be interesting to see how much they rely on him for the short yards. It's a short yards plays, especially like that was Blake Corum's specialty. It's like it's the 3rd and 2s, the 4th and 1s that he would get consistently. So we haven't seen Edwards do that. Like, we've seen him do well, on the early downs and stuff like that, but we haven't seen a lot of the short yardage stuff.
Yep. So, all right, that leads us to the last guy we're going to talk about in this video, and it's a name that we talked about last summer. A little bit of a disappointing 2023 season, but Raheem Sanders from Arkansas transfers over to South Carolina, where this is going to be very interesting to watch what happens here. Who's the head coach of South Carolina? Can you pull that up while we're talking here? But through the first 2 years, very good stats for a running back. Average 5.1 yards per carry as a rookie, 6.5 as a sophomore in 2022. Very good receiving usage as well. I do think he has fairly good hands, But then in 2023, absolutely fell off a cliff. You know, he had 6 games played, gets injured. He only had 62 rushing attempts in those 6 games, which is not good. You know, averaging about 10 rushing attempts per game. They were not using him the same way, which I think has to play into why he transferred out. You know, 10 receptions as well for 75 yards. So big drop off from sophomore to junior year. And now the question is whether that was him or scheme or usage or what exactly it was. But he goes over to South Carolina, where I think he has a lot of potential. And I really, really like Raheem Sanders. I remember I watched plays of him last year when we did this summer scouting last summer. And this guy is fun. Now, hopefully, NFL Draft Buzz is wrong on his weight, because he's a big boy listed on here, 242 pounds. I don't remember him being that big last year. I thought he was around 230, but I'd have to go back and look at the stats there. But 242 is a little scary. That's pushing the big boy side, where that doesn't give me the best feeling in my stomach. But if he is around 230, I'm not too worried about that. So we'll see if when he actually does the combine this year. But I am excited about Raheem Sanders. I think that there's a lot of potential about this guy, and he's going to be a sleeper name that people are not going to be paying a ton of attention to, and is going to surprise people with how good he is this year.
Yeah, that's fair. So, while you're going on your love affair with Sanders, I was
Mm-hmm.
looking up the South Carolina Gamecocks, and they are led by Shane Beamer, who is son of Hall of Famer Frank Beamer of Virginia Tech. So,
Okay. Okay.
yes, is that. So, I mean, they don't have Spencer Rattler. I don't think I could name a single South Carolina player other than Raheem. So,
It's going to be interesting.
they, he's going from one SEC mid team to another, in my opinion, and I
Mm-hmm.
think he may have more opportunity, but I think it's going to be very much similar to what see it at Arkansas. Like, he's going to be playing different teams from the SEC West, which is the Alabamas, LSU's, Auburns, to the Georgias, Floridas, Tennessees of the world that that
Mm-hmm.
are good teams still. So, um, I think he's going to be okay. I mean, I like other players that we did not talk about.
Sure.
Some. I'm a Big Ten guy, so you know, there's a couple. There's a bit. There's another Penn State guy that we didn't talk about, but um, I don't. I like some of the tape of Sanders. I just don't feel. I think a lot of these guys are a lot better and a lot more suited for the NFL than Sanders. I don't think he's going to go up people's draft boards. I think he's going to be kind of stay where he's at. I don't think I don't think a lot of what he does super stands out compared to these other guys.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you know, if he can return to form of his sophomore year, you
Yeah,
scratch last year,
yeah.
right? Let's just give him, let's say he transfer portaled after that sophomore year to South Carolina here. And again, you're not wrong. There's a lot of question marks. I would have him right up there with top 5. Like I would prefer him over ETN, Donovan Edwards, probably Ashton Jeanty. Hampton is kind of the
I think
question.
the big thing with Sanders is that he played with a dual threat quarterback
Yeah,
quite a bit at Arkansas, and I think that help things clear up for him. I
sure.
just don't think I just don't think he's as good as some of these other guys that we've talked about, and didn't talk about them. So I think I'm just a little concerned about him. I'm kind of off until I see more this year,
Sure.
and I don't think I'm going to see a lot that piques my interest.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fair. So I really like him, but it is weird to me. I was looking through, just looking while we're talking here. They had the same head coach from 2022 to 2023, so not a coaching staff difference. I don't know what the scheme changed. Maybe I don't know the inner workings, whether they fired their OC and kind of went to a new guy. But yeah, that is such a drastic change in usage from one year to the next, which I don't understand it personally. So I think that if he can get back to that 2022 form, the dude is going to be a superstar. Like, I really do think that. But I understand the potential hesitations. So we'll see what he can do with South Carolina. If he can make a name for himself this year with a basically no name roster in South Carolina, I think that's going to be an amazing accomplishment. So somebody to keep an eye on, but really loved him last year. Didn't have a good year last year, basically at all. But you know, if he can get back to form, this guy's going to be fun, man. So, all right. So there's our summer scouting for the running back position. We're going to be talking through some of the other positions here in the next couple of weeks. We'll do some of the wide receivers. We'll do a wide receiver standalone video, and then we might do a quarterbacks and tight ends because, you know, it's always iffy with quarterbacks. We'll see how much we get into these guys, how much we like them. I know some of the names are familiar. I haven't done too much digging into it. You know, you've got Ewers back, you've got Carson Beck, who I know pretty well, and a few others. So there's some guys that we like. Cam Ward, I think, is another guy, right? Cameron Ward. Yeah. So I know actually a decent number of quarterbacks already in this draft class. So not an amazing draft class of quarterbacks, so maybe we'll just pair that with the tight ends here in the next couple of weeks and do that one as a combo video there. But if you like the summer scouting video, let us know down in the comments below, and we'd love to hear from you. Some guys that we should check out. Now, this isn't a fully comprehensive list. You know, I did a little bit of digging into each one of these guys just so I could know roughly what I'm talking about here. But, you know, obviously we have not done a full review of all of these guys' tape and all of these guys' games throughout the entire season. So, you know, obviously these are initial opinions, so take it with a grain of salt. But if there's guys that you think we should check out, let us know down below, because that'd be very helpful just to keep some names on our radar as well. So, Dale, any last thoughts?
Send it on home.
All right, well, thank you guys again for listening. If you can, please go over to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, Dynasty After Dark on YouTube, or you can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and we'd be happy for your subscription there. And if you can, comment down below, like the video, and we appreciate you guys. Find us on Twitter at TDC_Calvin for myself, at Dynasty_Dale for my partner here. I've been doing so much MMA. I've been ingrained in MMA the last couple of months, man. It's been a good time to be an MMA fan, I'll tell you that. But you know, that's what I've been focusing on a lot this offseason, which has been kind of nice. But I still give the occasional football take, so you can follow me over there. But you can find the podcast at FF After Dark, and that's where most of our stuff goes out on. So that said, thank you guys for joining us, and until next time, have a good night.
And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?